How much is too much? How could I love a game as open and bloated as Black Flag, but struggle to connect or care at all about Valhalla? I have some thoughts. Welcome to completion number 141 of the Potato Backlog Project. Make sure you stick around to the end of the video for the most humblest of humble rating systems out there, the Tater Raider. And let's talk about Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Released in 2020, Assassin's Creed Valhalla is an open-world action RPG game that is so overstuffed with stuff that it's overwhelming at times. Valhalla is set around 872 AD and is the story of a character called Eivor. Eivor's journey takes you from Norway to England, where your Viking clan starts to establish a new settlement. Part of the game will actually have you making decisions on which buildings to build, upgrade, and interact with, like a build-your-own Viking town simulator. The Viking characters and setting were great. The best thing about the game for me, actually. There's a ton of great stuff to draw on to create and build interesting stories. The conflicts between the different clans, within your own clan as you get settled and your community grows, the Anglo-Saxon people of England, forging alliances, making enemies. Those were all interesting and fun things about Assassin's Creed Valhalla. My biggest issues with the game started hitting around hour 15 of my playthrough. The game is slow going. Things happen at a very slow pace story-wise and leveling-wise. I got hard locked into having to upgrade my settlement to try further the story. To do this, you need supplies and materials that you get from looting and raiding. Why in a game of this size would this ever be a thing? Just like with Black Flag, I wasn't a fan of this. You had to upgrade your ship at certain points in Black Flag to really be able to move on. I don't see why you would build this massive open world only to limit it and slowly drip feed it to the player. There are sections of England essentially locked off by power level, requiring you to level your character to stand any chance. This does work in certain RPGs and certain other game types, but would usually be tied to some type of story element, or the game mechanics and design require it to make sure the player is prepared and skilled enough to proceed. But in Valhalla, you can be sailing down the river. On one side of the river, you're able to be a deadly assassin, and on the other side, you'll be one-shot by anything that finds you. The wild boars and wolves will probably off you just as easy as the English can. And the funniest thing is, everything on either side of the river looks exactly the same. It's not like you're going to some new, more dangerous land. This type of design doesn't work in a world this size. You need to trust that the player will decide how much and how far they want to explore. It just felt limiting, and like it was another tool to just keep me playing as long as the game could. The leveling system itself felt like it worked in conjunction with this goal. You don't necessarily gain levels as a character. You gain XP, which unlocks skill points, which you then use on a massively convoluted pointless skill tree, which in turn boosts your power level. You can check the map for suggested power levels of areas so you can avoid wasting your time exploring before you're even able to. I call the skill tree pointless because 95% of it is. There are little nodes with boosts like 1.7 to melee, 2.0 to range, 2.4 to stealth, 4.5 to abilities. 4.5 what? Percent? Is it just points? The game does a horrible job explaining any of this, or giving you a reason to care about leveling up a certain stat specifically. It just assumes you'll be happy with the little dopamine rush you get for unlocking a node. Scattered and separated throughout these nodes are actual skills, both passive and active, as well as other character upgrades. Each node costs the same though. You will pay 1 skill point to unlock a node, giving you plus 1.7 to abilities, whatever the hell that means, and the same skill point can unlock another adrenaline slot, or the ability to chain assassinate. So it just feels like basically time gating your character's abilities, when it should feel like you are growing more powerful by playing, and that you are controlling what areas you become more powerful in. When you spend a node on small boosts to melee strength, you don't feel any more powerful. And on top of all of that, you never really have to fully commit to any decision you make on what skill points you spend on what, because you can revert any of them at any time for free. It really made me just not care at all about anything on that screen, outside of unlocking more adrenaline slots. The game's combat system has a stamina bar and ranged and melee skills that you unlock outside of the skill tree. These abilities are found throughout the world in books of knowledge. I did like the way this worked. It made looking for something worth it. It was a good reward. I wasn't really a fan of how the stamina bar worked in combat though. It didn't feel that well thought out. And again, it just kind of felt like something thrown in there so they could have another small number for you to level up through the skill tree and the armor mods. Heavy strikes and dodging would use lose stamina, and light strikes gain it back. In a game as large as this, there are better ways to add depth to your combat system. This was another thing that hindered the flow of the game and the flow of the fighting, and it was funny at times to have to sit and let stamina charge, especially as you get further in and spamming light attacks isn't effective at all to regain stamina. Was this like another, they slow you down? This slows you down. Armor and weapons in Valhalla also had their own upgrade systems. Specific and certain materials were needed to be collected here as well. Some things you could upgrade on your own, and other things would require your blacksmith. There were also runes to boost your armor pieces and weapons. Unfortunately, the way this system worked kind of stopped me from experimenting and trying other armor and weapons. Once I had invested so much materials and time into certain pieces, starting over with new pieces wasn't that appealing to me. You could find other upgraded sets and other pieces, but outside of visual differences, gameplay wise there just wasn't much there to entice me to switch. Nothing that was going to noticeably affect the game for me in a way where I felt it was advantageous to experiment, and that for me is a failure of game design. A game so full of things to do, so many missions, points of interest, chests to collect, armor pieces, but it kind of forgot at times that it's a game about being an assassin, the actual feeling of being an assassin, joining the Brotherhood. This entire aspect of the game is just drip fed to you. I never really felt like I was part of something bigger and battling the Templars. You know, the whole Assassin's Creed thing. I was okay with just being a Viking, but it kind of defeated the point of the games. At times I would forget I was playing an Assassin's Creed game at all. They did add back in some options to blend in with crowds. Your standard grass sneak stuff is there, but they maybe locked away too much of the good stuff. Should I have to play 40 hours of an Assassin's Creed game to finally feel like I'm playing an Assassin's Creed game? A big turnoff for me came when I realized I couldn't assassinate some of the more beefed up powerful characters. I would be in an area where the game told me I was the right power level, but then the option to assassinate would show that I would only take like half their life. I just didn't understand why this was even a thing. Isn't the point to reward stealthy play with the kill? There is a node on the skill tree that unlocks a little mini button press game for assassinating these stronger guys. But seriously, why? What is the point of that? To prolong my playthrough was again the only thought that I kept returning to. Exploring the world itself felt pointless at times as well. This is a world that should feel like it has endless possibilities, but there are no moments that catch you going, no way, that was cool. No water cooler moments that you would talk to your friends about the next day, because everything is laid out on the map once you get the synchronized point. Then you can just go point to point and collect and complete everything in the area. The game doesn't have to do anything to guide you, lead you, or point you in any direction. For a game whose main mission gimmick was having you follow someone a really far ways just to hit a cutscene and then fight some people, they maybe could have done a little bit more in the way of designing things in the game to help you discover and learn things about the areas that you were in. It really started to feel like lazy design. You can sit and say, look at how much stuff we put into this game. Look at all the things you get to do, all the stuff you can find. But who cares when you don't have to do any of the work to find it? You don't have to use your brain even a little bit. So the game failed to make leveling up fun for me. It failed to make the gear and weapons interesting for me. It failed to make exploring the world fun for me. It slow dripped the main story so badly that I nearly forgot what was happening at times. The core gameplay loop just isn't good enough to hold throughout the length of the story they tried to tell here. The main story alone is like 60 hours. If they cut that in half or made it possible for the player to control the pace of progress a little bit better, then I think I would have enjoyed the experience more. You could keep all the overstuffed, over the top massive amount of things, inconsequential things, but streamline that main story into 20 or maybe 30 hours. I think it would have went a long way into people having a better memory of what the game is and what happens, and a better experience with everything the game had to offer. Because I did some reading and most people felt the same about the game as me. There was some free DLC in the form of a roguelite minigame mode and a river raid game mode. These are accessible through the main game within your settlement. I didn't even realize they were DLC until I was in them. These were free updates, so that's good, but the roguelite mode just wasn't really fun for me. Some people probably love this game. Completionists, gamers that just love content no matter what kind probably love it. But for me, the game felt like it lacked direction, it lacked heart and substance, and really felt like it was an overbloated checklist fetch simulator designed to keep me running on zombie mode. And it didn't have to be this way. There are tons of ways to shore things up in games like this. This could have been an amazing experience, but it just fell flat for me. 3 happy potato faces out of 5. If I was trying to get someone excited about Assassin's Creed games, this is not the game I would point them towards. It gets a 3 instead of a 2 because of scope, and it works for the most part. Whether or not it deserves that, I'll leave it up to you. With that, the Backlog project rolls on. Be kind to yourselves and others that deserve it. On to the next one.